Okay.
And welcome once again to The View from Here, from behind enemy lines, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us gentleman, entrepreneur and author Jim Beach. He's going to talk to us. The main thing I know he's going to talk to us about is the hypocrisy of, what's his name?
The
Leonardo
real
All the
DiCaprio.
celebrities, the hypocrisy
Yes.
of all the celebrities.
Oh, all of them, exactly.
Oh,
But DiCaprio, it's not just that he spent time on Bezos' yacht. He also flies all over the world on a jet. He thinks he's
also
important enough
the
to
false,
do
the
that.
false environmentalists, the false environmentalists.
Oh, let me ask you this at the outset. Are you also an environmentalist, quote unquote?
I would consider myself an environmentalist. I don't know that a lot of the people on the left would consider me an environmentalist.
Okay.
I love clean air. I love clean water. I love spending time in the environment and
So do we all.
camping and hiking and playing in waterfalls and lakes. But I also think that a lot of the conversation that happens is wasted hot air, and they are more
Money grab.
interested in propping themselves up than actually solving any environmental problems. So
Jim, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I believe very strongly that entrepreneurs are going to solve the environmental problems, not the government and not the academics, not the celebrities giving another speech.
Oh.
The book that I have talks about 5 amazing entrepreneurs that are solving environmental problems right now and making a profit doing it. So my argument is, as always, the environmentalists, well, as always, the entrepreneurs will save the day. They're the people creating new jobs in our economy. They're the people figuring out how to get the plastic micro blobs out of the Pacific Ocean. They're the people figuring out how to turn algae into gasoline. They're the people figuring out how to grow coral 50 times faster than God can so that we can replenish our coral reefs and create whole new coral reefs. People who are making water cleaner so that the drinking water that we have is 2 or 3 times cleaner than the existing water. These amazing entrepreneurs are solving the problems that I hear about every day, but the entrepreneurs are never included in the discussion, just the doomsdayer. The doomsday guy gets the radio attention and no one else. So that's what I'm here for.
Well, why don't you give us the title of the book? We're going to put links to it and where it can be purchased on our website, but here it is.
The Real Environmentalist: How Wayne Elliot and Other Capitalists Will Save the World. The Real Environmentalist. And you can also go to the website, realenvironmentalist.com, where we have additional resources and additional entrepreneurs written about there. So it also has a really cool graphic where the leaves fall. See how our leaves are falling and turning into dollar bills. And so we spent an additional $100 to get that graphic for you, Roy.
The interesting thing is that not only are entrepreneurs presently improving the environment, but you're creating entrepreneurs to do more, because you also have the School for Startup podcast, which educates people on how they can free themselves from the shackles of poverty.
Exactly. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm on the air 5 days a week in 100 AM FM stations around the country. Plus, we have a podcast version as well. And we talk about how to become a low risk, low creativity, zero passion entrepreneur. So I believe I have a very different view for entrepreneurship. I don't think you should try to wait on a creativity lightning bolt from God. You should go copy someone else's business and do it better than they're doing. The first business I started when I was 23 was a 100% copy of an existing business. I didn't copy their trademarks, their patents, or their copyrights or anything like that, but I copied the model and just did it better. I also spent $1,000 to start the business and had paying customers. And I believe you can get almost all businesses up for $5,000 or less. And I'm not a big fan of risk then. I think entrepreneurs are the people who reduce risk to the point that it's a no-brainer to start the business. And I think passion is awesome at the church, the synagogue, and the mosque, and in the bedroom and family time and stuff. But I'm not passionate about my work. I like it a lot. I like working for myself more than I like working for you. And if you do love your business, that's just icing on the cake. But you don't have to love it. You just have to like it more than, having a 9-to-5 job. The first business I started, I did not love until 2 or 3 years into it. And I started seeing the impact that we were having on young kids, and moms were writing letters that their kids were smiling for the first time ever. It's easy to get passionate about that. But I've done businesses that I wasn't passionate about. I just believe that for under $5,000, I can go copy your model and maybe do it better than you and put you out of business. So that's what we teach at the School for Startups. And we've had amazing guests. We've had billionaires and Shark Tank winners and losers and Shark Tank judges and 16-year-old girls that are doing cool things. We won the Small Business Administration Media Award. And in about a month, some news brand that I'm not allowed to mention yet is going to name us the #1 business podcast in America. So we're doing okay.
The interesting thing is that one of the reasons why I wanted to connect with you is that I'm also starting up a business right now, but it is a business of, I don't even know if it qualifies as a true business. It probably does. I'm a game designer, a board game designer, and I've been trying to take off on it. And as a matter of fact, there's access to my website on the website for this particular podcast. So it's called Friendly Fire Board Games. And I am now in the process of changing my model because my original model wasn't working. So now I'm focusing on family-friendly games primarily and print and plays. I'm trying to get my name out there. And then eventually, without spending any money, I got that from you, and trying to get enough buzz that somebody will actually want to produce my game.
Well, the interesting thing is I have had 2 or 3 that I can remember game entrepreneurs on my radio show. So you can go back and listen to those episodes and find out how they were successful and what model they followed. I think, from what I understand, the best model for a game is to do a GoFundMe account or one of these crowd-raising things, and then go and do a bunch of radio shows to get people to do the funding and help provide. And that usually games do pretty well with that model.
I should go on a podcast.
Well, yes, you should. But first, listen to the recording of the other guys who have been successful. I've got episodes up about how to do a game business.
Question about those other guys. Are they video game designers or board game designers, or both?
No, I've interviewed both, but I was particularly realizing that we were talking about board games here, not video.
Yeah, Mike is in a smaller and smaller niche these days because everybody's doing video games for all the young kids. But Mike is sticking to his guns and creating board games, which are still fun.
But you're right. Video games overall have a higher fan base. But the thing is that due to like COVID and stuff, there was a reinvestment into board games because it didn't require. Because people were inside the house a lot. They had to interact. But the thing is that I will hunt those videos down. And it just, like I said, I have a personal interest in interviewing you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. The board games are still incredibly popular in the world today. There's still a huge niche for those. And there's a very high price on most of them. Most of them can cost $60, $70 sometimes. If they have really small, intricate little pieces and all of that. But board games have not gone anywhere. They're still popular out there. There's still a huge niche for it.
Collected board games for decades. And how many board games do you estimate you have about?
About 40 or 50.
That's it? I thought you had more than that.
Those are the ones that work.
The ones that work.
Yeah, I designed it.
You seem to have a couple of hundred games from what I saw on the cabinet.
Oh, you mean board, the actual board games?
Yeah,
Oh,
actual
I
board.
thought you were talking about the ones I
Not the ones
designed.
you created. No,
Oh, okay. I have about 200-300 games.
that's what I thought. In the hundreds.
Yeah, but that, the thing is that to defend myself, I've only opened up 60% of them.
Well, they're more valuable if you leave them closed, of course. You
There you
never
go.
open them,
Maybe I
they
can sell
retain
it to
their
you.
value better.
Jim,
So, your startup a podcast. I listened to your conversations about the environmentalists, which I was really happy about, because the thing is, I'm not a gloom and doom guy when it comes to the environment, especially since I got some real research at some point. And then on top of that, the entrepreneurs that you presented on this interview that you had were people that were actually acquiring that which was jettisoned by somebody else and using that as raw materials. Like you use your rugs to go and you double use them in order to make bags out of them. That was brilliant.
Yes, thank you for remembering that company. That's a long time ago. But what he's referring to is that I started a company that it was actually on a bet. I bet one of my classes that I could start a company that semester, make it cash flow positive, and repay all the startup capital. And they got to choose the country and the industry that I would start the business in. So my class chose Pakistan. This was right after 9/11, and furniture, because I had just done a lecture on how furniture is one of the worst industries out there, a 1 or 2% margin industry. So they told me to bet me to start a Pakistani furniture company. And I was able to do it, and the chairs were absolutely gorgeous. We took 100-year-old Persian rugs, like a rug that you would have at a ski resort or something like that at your grandmother's dining room, and we cut them up and made it into furniture with American, styles and looks, like a Queen Anne armchair that you would find next to a dry stacked stone fireplace in a library, things like that. And I was able to sell, I think, 7 of the 16 of the original order before they left the factory. And so I won the bet and was successful to get those products up. And unfortunately, I didn't end up with any. And I don't have any of them myself. And then we would take the scraps from that and make it into luggage. So like a big weekend bag that'd be like 3 feet long would be from the scraps that came from the furniture. And so we sort of double dipped on that product. That was a great business.
You had as a client base carpetbaggers.
Yes.
Well, what's great about that in my imagination is that it sounds to me that not only did you utilize these old rugs, but what I know about those rugs is their longevity is incredible. So you've created a product that is a heritage piece that you could pass on to the next generation. I think that's fantastic.
Yes, those rugs were already 100 years old when we got them.
Wow.
So they were antiques, and some people thought it was wrong for us to cut them up, but the chairs are beautiful. If you want to see one, you can go to my LinkedIn profile and just scroll to the bottom forever, like 20 years ago, literally, and you can see some of the samples there. They are beautiful chairs.
Well, Roy had a 100-year-old rug, but he doesn't like wearing tubes anymore.
Let me ask you another question. Tell us a little about yourself, how you got to where you came from, and how you got to wherever you are now today.
I really thought my role in life was going to be the CEO of Coca-Cola. That's what I wanted to be. I was an Atlantan kid, and I have a picture of myself when I was 6 months old drinking a Coca-Cola. And so I bleed Coca-Cola red, and I got a job in Japan. I worked for the Japanese government and speak Japanese, and got a job in Japan working for Coca-Cola and saved them $1 billion over 10 years.
Wow.
Came back to Atlanta and was applying for a permanent job. And they said that my report was that I don't play well with others and I should go start a business. And I was devastated. I was 22, 23 and thought my life was over. My entire goal of everything I always wanted. I had just been denied. And so they escorted me out of the building. And 6 months later, I decided to become an entrepreneur and to start a business. And so I wanted to go to architecture school. I decided if I can't be the CEO of Coke, I'll be an architect. And so I didn't get accepted to architecture school and literally badgered the Dean Galloway into accepting me. I sat in his hallway and drew the hallway and would cram drawings underneath his door. And whenever he wanted to get in, he'd have to step over me. And so he finally let me in, and I started a business that summer to pay for my way, to support myself. The idea was I'd have a 3-month business and support myself. And I started a summer camp because I knew a little bit about summer camps, and started a summer camp at Stanford and MIT. We were a computer camp, and we grew that to 89 locations at Stanford, MIT, Georgetown, UCLA, SMU, Emory, Sorbonne, Cambridge, Oxford, and up to about 700 employees. And that business ran its life, and you still see it all over when you drive past a elementary school and you see the little sign outside that says Lego class or something like that. We started that.
Was that the business where you held the children for much longer than they normally were held? So
yeah,
this
we did. We had a very unusual thing. When you think of a commuter summer camp option, that's usually 9 to 1 or 10 to 2 or something. It's usually half day.
Mm-hmm.
We went from as early in the morning as you want to bring them to as late in the evening as you want to pick them up. So if you have a full-time job, you probably need to get rid of the kid before 8. School starts before 8 most of the places. And you want to go on a date. If you've got the kid in camp, you want to go on a date and see a movie and stuff like that. And that doesn't finish up until 11 or something. And our overnight kids were staying there, overnight. So we let the kids come all as long as they wanted to, even as a commuter. And the parents just absolutely loved it because they could actually, go to work full time and go on a date with their husband or their wife or whatever. And so that was a very unusual way of doing it, but it worked out very well for us.
Now, how was that not creative?
Yeah.
Well, was the lack of creativity just your realization that there was a need for the service?
So when I was a kid, I went to National Computer Camp. My camp was called American Computer Experience. National became American, and camp became Experience. And they started at 9 o'clock on Sunday, and I started at 9 o'clock on Sunday. They didn't have the crazy schedule that we did for the commuters. That was original for us. We did that originally. But basically it was a copy of National Computer Camp. It was
what you did was you took an idea and you improved upon it.
Right. They did their camp at an old resort, 30-year-old dump of a resort. And I did mine at Stanford and MIT. Where would you rather send your kid?
Yeah. Well, see, but that's that involves creativity, because you're taking an idea now. Okay, we got to change it. What are we going to change it to? What am I going to do?
Not being creative in the sense that you don't have to completely come up with the wheel by itself. You can go ahead and look at the wheel and say, you know what, that would work a little bit better at rounder. So that's a little bit different. So I think what you're talking about is honing an idea, not so much having to create something from scratch.
Right.
Well, think about it. How many hotels do we have? How many restaurants do we have? We have Nike and Adidas and all of the other shoe companies. Most of the good ideas have already been taken. Facebook was not an original idea. DOS was not an original idea for Microsoft. He bought it from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean that it's a bad idea for someone else to try.
Yeah,
there's still companies trying to have new hotel brands. We're doing it a whole new way at our new hotel brand. And so I think that we just have to realize and acknowledge that most ideas are copies. So instead of waiting for a lightning bolt, have a proactive process of finding an idea to copy. go out and read magazines and say, "Oh, here's an idea I could copy," or get on Chat GPT and say, "Give me business ideas that work off of my resume, and here's my resume." Things like that.
Now,
Yeah,
getting back to
when my father bought his bakery, I mean, he was one of only 3 bakeries in the area in Newark. And later on, a lot of Portuguese bakeries started opening up because of his success. Now, it took him 10 years before he became a success, before he became an overnight success, okay? And in those 10 years, there was one time, where the 7-Up guy told me, and my father, for example, he was the first bakery, and it was in the 7-Up magazine, national magazine, the first bakery to sell soda. Okay, to sell anything that wasn't a baked good. He even had a deli section and everything eventually in the thing. And these were all things he figured, okay, let me improve on the services and products I'm giving. And we, in the end, by the time he sold the business to another chain, there were 13 other competitors in the area. And the, what are they called? The Chamber of Commerce once told us that we had more than 50% of the retail in that area, because my father never skipped on the ingredients and so forth. Plus, he opened other businesses too. But so
I hate to
thinking about what
I hate to disagree with you
Sorry?
On the soda thing, because as I'm absolutely sure that plenty of bakeries had baking soda. It's what I do, Jim. It's what I do. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's what I do.
56 to 57. The guy from 7-Up walked in. He was creative too, because bakeries didn't sell soda. He walked in and my father said, "What do you mean sell soda? This is a bakery. I don't sell." He goes, "Just try it. Look, I'll give you 2 cases on consignment. If you don't sell them, I'll take them back next week." Yeah. He walks in next week. My father goes, "Give me 2 more cases."
Jim has another great teaching about using his chair company. When it was suggested that he would also move to leather, that to me is a brilliant teaching.
I'm sorry, what story was that?
When you were building the chairs out of the Moroccan rugs, right, somebody suggested to you that maybe you should also include leather as your fabric.
We did. We used capybara leather out of Argentina.
I thought you didn't. I thought you walked away from leather because you didn't know enough about leather.
Well, I think you're combining 2 or 3 different stories. The next year, the next year, the class that I had then heard about the bet and wanted to make a bet also. And so they bet me that I could start an Argentinian leather company.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Instead of doing sofas there, we decided to do smaller items like handbags and purses and hand-painted leather jackets. Yeah. And so the idea there was that you had to pivot and realize what the true benefits of a particular market is. And so we had to move to Argentina to get the leather there because they have some of the best leather and some of the best beef in the world. And we also specialized in capybara, which, is for some reason softer and better and exclusive. But that was a whole different year.
Sorry, I thought the two were related.
Well, they're all related because that became the book that started everything. So I had an Atlanta Journal-Constitution reporter make me a bet that we could get a contract with McGraw-Hill, probably the most prestigious publisher in our space, in a week. And I said, all right, if you can get a contract in 1 week, I'll write the book. And so we made a 1-page business proposal and sent it to McGraw-Hill, and under a week we had a contract. That's just unheard of in the publishing industry. Normally it takes, you send out 100 proposals and you get 99 rejections. And finally, after years of work, you get a contract. Yeah, but we did it sort of the other way around. So I had the contract, and we only had 5 weeks to write the book and to get it done, to get it back to them.
This is for the Real Environmentalists.
No, that was for my first book, it's called School for Startups, which became the radio show.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Right. So this is an interesting story. I was going to call it the Entrepreneur School, but I got a letter from a lawyer saying, you're not allowed to use the word entrepreneur. It is a trademark. It is owned by Entrepreneur Magazine, and we will sue you if you use the word entrepreneur. And I was like, you can't, no, an Entrepreneur Magazine is not going to sue an entrepreneur for using the word entrepreneur. And then I did the research and found out that they sue like hundreds of people every year for it, and that they are incredibly strict with defending that trademark.
Yeah.
And so if you use the word entrepreneur, you have to send Entrepreneur Magazine 3 cents.
Oh, jeez.
Every time. Isn't that just ridiculous? So anyway, we had to change the name to School for Startups because of Entrepreneur Magazine threatening to sue us.
That's
so
okay.
instead of giving them 3 cents, you gave them your 2 cents.
And a finger.
It's me again doing it.
School for Startups sounds less intimidating for a newcomer than School for Entrepreneurs.
Okay,
so I think,
good. I'm glad to hear that.
in a way, the universe was looking out for you.
I think so.
For me, when you say startup, I think of online businesses, because that's where I first heard it, when people were doing startups. That's what I heard. But the thing is that present day, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's great. SFS,
Yep.
yeah.
And now it's grown into startup publishers and the radio and the book. So we have a publishing company now as well.
Wow. Startup.
Fantastic. So you've gone over your 3 primary misunderstandings about entrepreneurial stuff. That you have to be that you have to be independently creative, that you have to take big risks, and also
passion.
Oh shoot! I thought I knew the 3 of them off the top of my head. All right, there's one more.
Passion.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's a problem for me because I'm passionate about my work. Anyway, yeah, and I understand that from an entrepreneurial sense. Okay, but I think some businesses, don't they require passion? Like, I'm a game designer. I love my games. How is that a problem?
It's not a problem at all. That's icing on the cake. You're lucky that you love what you do.
Okay.
I just don't want someone sitting on the sidelines because they don't love an idea. Let me tell you about the corridor principle. This is a really interesting idea. You'll probably discover that this is true in your life. Imagine you're standing at a really long hallway, and you're standing at the end, and you can see a 300-yard hallway, and it's got doors off to the side, to the left and the right, but you can't see into those doors because of your angle, right? You're not at the right angle. So you have to start walking down the path of life, doing stuff, trying stuff, before you can get down to that 3rd or 4th door where you discover your passion. But you wouldn't have discovered that if you hadn't walked down the path of doing other stuff and looking in other rooms along the way. So the point is, I want you to get moving and get on the life, get on the carousel, and just don't sit on the sofa waiting for stuff to happen to you. I want you to be proactive and go do it yourself.
Yeah, it's like,
in other words,
people say, "Oh, McDonald's people need a living wage." McDonald's was never intended to be a living wage for anyone. It was intended to be a jumping off point or a stopgap job, and something that would actually motivate you to do something better, to do something more profitable. And that's what the left is destroying in entrepreneurs, I think. They're saying, no, take the safety route. Don't risk anything. Even though you're saying we don't really have to risk a lot. They don't want any kind of risk. They want you to just get a job and be happy with that and go home at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever, and not do anything else unless they tell you to.
When I was trying to explain the passion issue, which upset a couple of people when I told them about it, I tried to explain it to them this way, and tell me if I'm wrong. You have to dig a ditch. It is a process. You have to be diligent. You have to dig a ditch. You do not have to be passionate about it, but you've got to get it done. That's it. So I have a feeling that what you're being is practical. You're saying you want to make a living for yourself. You need to establish a business. You need to focus on it, understand the mechanisms, and move forward. And don't get hung up on this idea you have to be in love with the hot dogs you're making.
Yeah.
The hot dogs that you're making is how you got introduced to the man who made you the chief chef. And that's when you discovered your passion for running a restaurant. You don't know what you're doing now will lead to. You don't know what, being on this show, what the opportunities that could come from that. And so what I'm trying to suggest is motion is better than being sedate and waiting for something. Go proactively find what you're passionate about and get into that. And it may take you until you're 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, whatever. You don't necessarily know when you're 21 what your passion is, but you know that you can cross things off the list. So I was involved in oceanography for a while. I got a minor in oceanography. I decided I don't want to do that anymore, so I crossed it off the list. I decided I don't want to live in Japan anymore. It's a really hard place to live, so I crossed that off the list. But those help move me forward toward what I am passionate about. Or maybe even think about this. This is a whole new way. What if you only have a job that you like? But because of that job, you make enough money that you can go to woodworking school 2 or 3 weeks a year. And woodworking is your ultimate passion. The way you get to that, or maybe you want to go to that boat making school that they have in Maine. And at the end of it, you have your own 21-foot boat that you made by yourself. But the only way you can do that is by having a real job in PR that you like, but it's not the greatest. Your boss is pretty good, but all of that allows you to have your passion, which is a handmade wooden boat from Maine. You have to think about it, as you said, practically, but also with an eye to the future. I never thought that I would end up in radio. That's the last thing I thought that I would end up doing. But I do really love it. I have a passion for the lifestyle. And that would only have happened if I had started a summer camp for kids when I was 23.
Another thing I'm kind of curious about, this is a peculiar question, like most of mine are. You're a podcaster. Okay, you've done a lot. You've established yourself in hundreds of markets. What exactly is going on in this podcast that you want to support by being here as a guest?
Well, several things. I want us to become friends and to help each other and to become able to support each other and develop maybe business relationships. Who knows? But it's always good to meet new people and to find out what they have going on. And one of my favorite suggestions for people doing podcasts, maybe for the first time, is don't hang up quickly, because the host probably has something they want to talk to you about off air. And so very frequently the host will say, thanks for being with us, but hang on, because I want to talk. So I think that that's important. I also have a message that I want to spread, that environmentalism is best addressed by the entrepreneurs, and we should get the academics and the government out of the way. So that's a message that I want to spread. I want to help your podcast grow as much as I can by bringing my audience to introduce them to you, and vice versa.
Thank you.
There's multiple levels of why we should do this.
Speaking of, which one? Oh my God, I'm having a senior moment. I just forgot you said something, and it reminded me of
our last podcast with Mike. Is that what you're thinking of? JCK?
No. We were told originally that you were coming on mainly to discuss your book, The Real Environmentalists, okay? And also that you were going to discuss Leonardo DeCaprio and his hypocrisy. So you want to get into that for a couple of minutes before
Poor Leo.
Yes.
Yeah, well, poor Leo.
Yeah, there's a bunch of others in the book too. So what we did is I asked ChatGPT to show me the people who talk about how great they are the most. And then I asked ChatGPT to make a list of entrepreneurs who are, I'm sorry, not entrepreneurs, environmentalists, people who claim to be environmentalists, how much they're actually doing. And I gave ChatGPT a definition. Doing means planting a tree or cleaning a penguin. Giving a speech does not count as actually doing anything.
Right.
You sort of have to get your hands dirty. So then it made a list of the environmentalists who are actually doing the most. And I took the two lists and gave them a score and weighted them and cross-tabulated them. And it gave me the 10 biggest environmental hypocrites in the United States. And so it's not my opinion. This is Chat GPT generated data. So if you don't like the outcome, you don't get to argue with me. You have to argue with Chat GPT, because they're the people, that's the brain that produced the data and was able to count how many times I bragged about being such a great environmentalist. And you've already mentioned Leonardo, so we will say that he is very, 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 very high on our list. He is one of the worst hypocrites on earth. He gives a speech at the UN, is given an award, gets on a private jet and flies to his super yacht. And one of the things I've learned is that the super yacht is the most destructive thing on earth that you can own, that you can do, that you can spend your time on. 1 week of a super yacht is the equivalent of 600,000 homes for a year in the United States.
Wow.
And so you're willing to vacation so luxuriously that you're using more energy and having more destructive output than 500,000 homes. Think of the arrogance that thinks that's okay. And I'll give you a Bezos is also on our list. He has a super yacht that he used for the basis for his wedding that he had a couple of months ago. Did you know that he has a spare super yacht that travels around behind his super yacht for extra toys and extra stuff? He has 2 super yachts that follow each other.
Oh, God. That's like putting a Volkswagen in the trunk of your Rolls Royce.
It's disgusting. You know, the things that they were doing, we have a list of the celebrities who get fined for their water use. The Kardashians are getting $100,000 a month fine for overuse of water, and they just gladly pay it. They don't try to reduce the amount of water that they're using or change their landscaping. And so that's just an incredible hypocrite. Someone who's telling me to put my air conditioning uncomfortably hot or to freeze during the winter, and they're using excess water. And there's no other word for that than hypocrite. So we came up with the 10 biggest. There's some celebrities, some politicians, some royalty, some interesting mix of people.
In your book, The Real Environmentalists, I believe you mentioned a couple of guys that seem to be like really amazing. One guy is rebuilding the coral reefs. Another guy is turning plastics that's floating around in the ocean into sandals. I forget the other cats, but those kind of stick out. Would you like to talk about some of those people?
Yeah, mention the entrepreneurs you mentioned in your book.
Right. Well, Wayne Elliot is the figurehead. He's the subtitle of the book is named after him, How Wayne Elliot and Other Entrepreneurs Will Save the World. He started off in ship recycling. So when he was about 15 years old, he started recycling ships, getting in the ballast and, taking a torch and tearing the thing apart. And he is now ISO certified and the North America's largest ship recycler. He buys aircraft carriers, drags them into his port, his harbor, and reduces them down to nothing and recycles every single part of the aircraft carrier except for the batteries. And so he spent $20 million of his own money trying to figure out how to recycle batteries. And he invented alkaline battery recycling, which was just recently sold to BlackRock. So you sort of understand how prestigious it is. If you get purchased by BlackRock, you're at the top of the heap. But he also was able to get Canada up to 97% of alkaline battery recycling. All of the supermarkets and the pharmacies and the superstores have a bin where you can drop your batteries in and they automatically get recycled. They got up to 97%. What is the American battery recycling? It's right at 0. and all recycling in America is useless at best. There's been some amazing 60-minute type gotcha journalism where they follow the recycling truck and it dumps its stuff in the exact same pile as all of the other trash,
I've seen
And
that
so
happen, actually.
for Canada to be up at 97% is amazing. And Wayne spent 20 million of his own dollars to develop that technology. He didn't call People Magazine about it. There was no big story about him on the nightly news. He's just an entrepreneur quietly going about his business, making the environment better. And so he's just an amazing example. And then Gator Halpern, the one you talked about with the coral, was a 35-year-old man and developed the technology as part of a school project. So these are just incredible people who are sacrificing having better paying jobs and not knowing where the next paycheck is going to come from because we might have to put it into advertising this week, or
Right.
we need a new aquarium or whatever,
So
these people have sacrificed tremendously.
I think I qualify now as an environmentalist given your model because I buy all my clothes from Salvation Army.
That's a great way to recycle and to so seriously. The amount of water that's wasted manufacturing clothes and carpet is amazing. So anything you can do to recycle, upcycle, reuse is valiant.
Wow.
I think personally that the most successful recycling program ever was the one that was in use before recycling became a thing. That was 5-cent deposit on bottles. I mean,
Yes.
all the kids who we find a bottle, we take it to the store and get a nickel. Well, a nickel in those days was good money. Yeah.
Now they're saying that the plastic. Now they're saying the plastic in the bottles might actually cause sterility.
Oh yeah,
So,
and one of our entrepreneurs in the book is addressing that. He's the one that takes algae and turns it into petroleum products for the use in plastic bottles, medicines, pharmaceutical goods, cosmetics,
which
records,
don't have the same
anything
the
the plastic is in. He's making it from algae now.
So it doesn't have the microplastics that regular oil does.
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's right. And he's one of the very, very few academics in the book. He was a PhD academic studying algae, and he was excited to spend his entire life studying algae. And all of a sudden, he realized that they could turn it into petroleum in the basis of the petroleum. And then he was like, oh, I could be rich. And so he decided to become an entrepreneur, and he's now had 4 environmentally based businesses. One of them was sold for a bunch of money.
Uh-huh.
See, that's one of the things I like about your model is it's for everyone. And it doesn't seem to be just in America. You proved it outside the country. Although I'm curious, are there certain countries where your model works better?
Well, certainly the more advanced the country. So, I didn't study the UK or France or any place else. We only studied the United States, but we came up with 261 American companies that are in the environmental space for profit. There are a bunch of European ones as well, but we didn't count those because we were only looking into America. But they're on the website. They're on Appendix 2 on the website. So you can go and look and find out that they're 100 companies researching air right now and how to have more pure air and how to make it part of an economic for-profit business.
Is there a particular pollution issue, environmental issue that has yet to be addressed that you can yell out to the people out there, and if somebody thinks that they want to, focus on that, they can?
No, after 261 companies that I discovered, I can't find anything. I'm pretty exhausted with that group. That got me tired. So I think that every niche that you can think of is covered. And most of them are covered multiple different ways. One guy's trying to clean up the microplastics and another guy's trying to eliminate them. They're coming at the same problem from different angles. And that's the ultimate when you get multiple solutions. And also we're having, we talked about having this division in the book at first, people cleaning up the past versus people designing for a better future. So there are companies out there. One of them is called the Good Charcoal Company, which is charcoal designed to have none of the bio badness that we associate with our summer barbecue. When you go and light the barbecue, it's producing a lot of toxic gases and fumes. He has a charcoal that doesn't. And so that's an amazing solution, not to clean up the past, but to have a better future.
What's the name of that charcoal?
I think it's called the Good Charcoal.
Good charcoal.
I'm not going to swear to that.
That's okay.
But,
if that's the name, it's an easy one to remember. We should get the good charcoal.
Honey, get the good kind this time. Get the good one.
As dumb as that name sounds, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's descriptive. Wow. How many students do you have in? Your School for Startups. This is online, or is it in person, or
we do both,
out,
of course,
across the country?
We do both. We have events where we are speaking live and in person, and then we have videos that are used for when we can't be there, and we have evergreen content that you can use in the middle of the night to learn. And so far, we've had about 7,000 people go through the system.
Okay. I want to get my grandson into. He wants to become an engineer, but he also wants to be an entrepreneur. Okay, he's juggling several different things at the same time right now. His music, his schooling, and his job, which is in music, by the way. He's now a teacher at the school that taught him how to play piano.
Excellent.
And he plays like 14 instruments now. But I'm trying to get him to realize that working for yourself is better than working for somebody else.
Well,
he believes that already.
There are lots of YouTube channels devoted to music, to teaching music. And his niche could be, I'm the 14 instrument guy,
Yeah.
And right there, we're going to remember him forever. I'm not going to forget the 14 instrument guy, because that sticks out. That's incredibly unique. And so he should have a channel on YouTube devoted to the 14 instruments that he can play, and teaching each one and how they interrelate to each other and how they go together and why certain instruments pair together.
He's actually pretty interested in the behind the scenes work in the music promotion industry. I mean, he has stayed behind sometimes after playing to see what his boss was doing with a certain program, to see what it does for the school, what it does for the music. I can't give you details of it. I don't know the details. I know he wanted to stay a little bit. He stayed 15 minutes. I said, "That's it." He said, "Yeah, I learned what I had to know." And then he's also helping them promote. Since he's teaching little kids, he has to go occasionally to this one place where they showcase the kids, and he puts on the show with them, with his students. So he's learning the music business from all angles. Let's put it that way.
Well,
but
he's lucky because he knows what his passion is.
Yes. Well, he originally wanted to make that his passion, but his career. But he's leaning towards engineering now. I mean, he's amazing, because my oldest son is the one who noticed that when he was little, and you put those 500-piece Lego things together, he'd be sitting there and he'd look at the thing. He'd look at the pieces, pick a piece out, and just put it right where it belonged. It was like he has an abstract mind, like that's incredible. That's probably why he's so good with music. It's a different language altogether.
They're very related, yes.
I would like to basically take a right turn on this conversation and get a little political, okay? And since you are an entrepreneur, okay, very funny. See, like you can make jokes too and get away with it. I can't. So anyway,
the jokes are funny.
Since you are, you're at the heartbeat of finance, okay? What's your opinion of Trump's tariffs Are they working or not working? And in
We do not
general,
know yet.
well, how do you feel about the general state of the economy, past, present, and future?
That's a big one.
I think the economy is doing okay right now.
Good.
I don't see any sign of change. And so from where it was 6 months ago, I think it's pretty much in the same place. I think that the way that the numbers are becoming more opaque might actually be a good idea. The fact that they tell us that we're in a recession creates a recession a lot of the times. I better stop spending because they told us a recession is coming. Well, they've been telling us a recession's been coming since Trump won, and so I don't know that I believe those people in the first place. The whole book is about the academics being wrong and mostly involved in themselves. And so that's evidence, I think, in our economic data as well. I don't know that we know yet whether the tariffs are working. I think that they're producing a lot more income than we have been told. I've seen some evidence that there's actually a good share of revenue coming in. Unless they do something with spending or taxes, though, it's really just kind of irrelevant. It doesn't affect us unless they can get spending down. And so overall, I am excited about how the Trump administration is helping business. And I do believe that he at least cares about small business, which most administrations don't even think about small business. And so I love his energy. I wish that every leader that we elect had as much energy as he does. So, and he's doing an amazing job of controlling the conversation too. He is in charge of the conversation. And so I think that his approval numbers now are probably close to 55 or 56% is what I've been seeing in some of the non-mainstream data. And I believe that. I think that overall he's doing a good job. When you can get a Democrat mayor to say, thank you for bringing the police to our city, he won a huge battle there in Washington. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when he goes to Chicago or Charlotte.
Hakeem Jeffries is saying that that Chicago should be a model for policing everywhere.
Well, DC,
it should be.
I've spent a lot of time in Chicago, and there are a lot of places that I don't go there. So I believe that they should keep us safe as part of the most basic rights that we deserve.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have another question. Getting back to your entrepreneurial, we're going to get sued, thing. And I don't think I've heard this from you, and I may be asking a question that doesn't have any credence. When a person is starting off in a business, the stages of that business as it's growing, can they be broken down into, let's say, 3 or 4 steps that you would expect the business to grow?
Very definitely. Entrepreneurs and consultants always talk about 1 million, 1.5 million as being a huge barrier to get past. Because usually when you get past that point, you have to have systems like HR systems and paycheck systems and things like that. And, to get to the next bump, like 4.5 or 5 million, you probably have to have developed scale and the ability to have 100 different outlets or something like that. And so each one of these steps is very much a learning curve for the entrepreneur. And you learn, if you're a good manager, if you can progress through all of the steps. An entrepreneur is usually not a good long-term manager. An entrepreneur is usually good at building stuff in a low-risk creative manner, and it usually should get replaced at some point and bring in a professional manager, because that's what they do, is they manage professionally. So I don't see anything wrong with that. It's very rare that you have the entrepreneur who also becomes the incredible manager. Like Zuckerberg, he's done an amazing job of running that company past the IPO. That's very rare. You only can count 5 or 6 others. They got rid of Bill Gates fairly early on and brought in professionals. The only other one is Oracle and what's his name?
Larry Ellison.
Larry Ellison, thank you. He was announced yesterday as the world's wealthiest man, number one now. He
He
surpassed
passed
Elon Musk
Elon Musk.
yesterday. And he's another very rare founder who's also a great manager who's run that business for 40 years now. So I do believe that as an entrepreneur, you need to be willing to step out of the way to let the company grow better. We did that at my first company. Year 6, I stepped out and became more of a figurehead, and that worked out very well because I was tired of running the business and someone else came in, and that worked out really well. So there are steps to entrepreneurship at different skill levels you have to attain. Yes.
Yeah. Donald Trump started 600 businesses before he became president.
Yes.
He's not running every one of them by himself. Okay. So
just to let you know, I have not reached the 1.5 million bump yet.
In your board game business or in a different business?
He's talking about pennies. 1.5 million pennies.
And Roy, if Roy and I combined our total worth, yeah, both of us.
That's where you get started.
Let me ask you a personal question. Okay, you didn't start off as a rich man. At some point, you must have reached a level of wealth where all of a sudden you had to look around and go, how the hell did I get here? Is there an emotional shock that happens when all of a sudden you realize you have reached an extreme level of wealth?
Very definitely. I remember being in a oak table discussion with a bunch of venture capitalists, and they said, well, yeah, the business is at least worth 12 million. And so I realized that I was worth 12 million at that time. That sticks out very firmly. Yeah. But you know what? That doesn't stick out as much as the letter that I got from a mom who said, I remember my daughter smiling for the first time. My daughter has a friend for the first time. Thank you for that. I put those up on the wall. I didn't put up checks on the wall or anything like that. But it is nice to realize that you have wealth. It's also important to realize how quickly it can disappear as well. So I've also had a corporate bankruptcy, not a personal bankruptcy, but a corporate bankruptcy. And you have to play, just because it's worth something now doesn't mean it's going to go to zero tomorrow. So you have to play defensive. And that's why so many entrepreneurs are not willing to change their formula. I hired my brother in year 5. He had just gotten his MBA, and he came in with all of these fresh ideas. And I was like, no, because the system works now. We're not going to mess with it. I don't want 1% incremental change if I could get 50% incremental deduction, and so sometimes you're better to play it safe. And I don't know. I've been both ways. I've been up and down. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum. They both hurt in different ways.
That sounds very, that's so basically you reach this pinnacle, or at least some point.
Not a pinnacle, it's just a step up on the continuing mountain.
Another peak.
Yeah. The thing is that it is volatile. You could lose it. So, you have that whole, I'm glad I'm here, but at the same time, if I'm not careful, I could lose it all. Does that sometimes stymie a business?
Definitely, if you are too afraid to grow, or if you're just not willing to take that risk. And the reason you keep putting that project off is because the entrepreneur is scared. That could be very much the reason that it keeps getting stalled. So, just because you've taken one risk doesn't make the second one that much easier or more likely to succeed. Sometimes it could make it harder to take that second risk because you saw how far it was down when you were jumping.
One of the things I have learned running my own tiny, unsuccessful business is that I'm constantly being introduced to new problems, and I have to face them. And initially, it was daunting, but now I'm starting to get used to the idea that tomorrow could bring another problem that I'm going to have to reinvent myself. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I just wanted to let you know that I have some experiences that might relate to you.
I think entrepreneurs frequently need someone to talk about these sort of things with, because most people can't have this conversation. And so it's hard to really express what your feelings are and what you're going through to just a lawyer or a nurse or something who comes home at 5 and turns off. It's very hard to be an entrepreneur and not have that become your social life and become the center of all your focus.
Unfortunately for me, all I have is Roy.
But you're a cute couple.
Oh, God.
On the pitcher, not the catcher.
Oh, shoot.
Hey, I don't need to know.
Thank God he's a whole state away from me.
Yeah, I'm in a different state of mind for sure.
Is horrible. Anyway,
Wow.
let's see. There was something. Oh, talking about entrepreneurs losing money and so forth. I mean, I've known people who had money and then for whatever reason, something happened and they lost their fortune, and then they rebuilt it again. My father's an example. He lost a lot of money when he had to pay for my mother's illness, and then 3 times he made himself a millionaire in his life. Once by the time he was 40, the next time when he was in his 60s, and the third time when he was in his 70s. Okay, so he didn't give up. He said, "No, I can't live like this. I got to do something different." And he worked practically till the day he died. I know other people who have also lost their fortunes, their businesses, or whatever. A year or two later, they're back in some other business.
I've seen that as well. Once you've done it once, you learn that you can do it, and you learn that the mountain is not insurmountable. And I do think that it's easier the second and the third and the fourth time for sure.
Yeah, Michael said that you stress persistence over some other thing, over
Passion.
For example, passion. Right.
I really did sit in the hallway outside the dean's office for a month, drawing the hallway.
Yeah, the interesting thing is I think success is such a good feeling. It should not be discounted. But
it's a great feeling. There's nothing better.
Yeah.
Anyway, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
There's one more thing I want to ask you, Jim. Okay, we were having a conversation, and you said I should check the board gamers that you interviewed, and see what I can learn. I'm thinking there's other people out there that do want to be following your footsteps, go to your podcasts and stuff. How is there are you organized so this way people can kind of sift through your information?
Yes,
easily?
We have strong indexes and
Beautiful.
all the stuff you need. So yes.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so all right, the radio show is called
School for Startups Radio.
Startupsradio.com.
So it looks like we're getting close to closing down, and I think I wanted to say this in the beginning, but the fact of the matter is I felt it was more important to keep our word and have this interview with you. Yesterday, a terrible thing happened, at least for me and Roy, and I wouldn't be surprised you as well, where Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And today is also 9/11, the anniversary of 9/11. So we have these two terrible events. It's basically now bookmarking this one period in September, and I just was thinking that that should be mentioned. So that should timestamp this particular conversation at the end.
Not to make it a downer, because this has been a very, very engaging, very. I like this conversation that we've had. Yeah,
me too.
You put up with us for about an hour, and I thank you for that.
No charge.
And I wish you continued success. I hope that by the time you're done with your run here on Earth, that you're a billionaire.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure that's one of my goals, but thank you anyway. No, you as well.
Whether it's a goal or not, I hope it happens to you.
Well, thank you. I have an idea or two if you want to invest.
Which is?
This is how he makes money. He goes on podcasts and he goes to two guys that are broke and asks them for money. I've heard of this. I'll tell you what, if you do stand up with me,
you'll become very famous because he'll be the straight guy. Anyway,
I don't know.
Is there anything else you want to say to the audience before we go?
I think we're done. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. We've had a great conversation.
Thank you so much for coming on.
You have to stay to make sure that we
Just
download.
a few seconds.
I know.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this episode of The View from Here, Behind Enemy Lines. Jim Beach has been our guest, and he's a very fascinating character, and he's got a lot of knowledge. I urge people to go for his book. What was the first book again? Startup?
School for Startups was the first book by McGraw-Hill.
And then
book
he's got
number 5 is Real Environmentalists.
Right, Real Environmentalists, How Wayne Elliot and Other Capitalists Will Save the World.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll be putting links. We'll be putting links to your sites and your books and so forth on the website. And I'll send everything to you once it's published. Okay?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you again for being here. We'll see you again next time on The View from Here.